Pack your bags, we're headed on a big old ride, with dreams of sunlit shores and the open skies, from the hills of Cyprus to where the world collides.
All right, so are you ready for some sunshine? Because we are diving deep into the Canary Islands.
Oh yeah, bring on the sunshine and the beaches.
You know those blog posts that you shared a while back about Rob and Mandy's trip back in January?
Yeah, what about them?
Well, we're going to unpack all of their adventures, all the cool little details, the food, and hopefully it will give you some ideas for when you eventually go on your trip.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so Rob and Mandy actually live in Cyprus, but they are originally from the UK, so they bring this really interesting perspective to the Canary Islands.
They kind of have like a double layer of being outsiders, I guess.
Right, like there's a seasoned traveler, so they are coming from a place of experience, but they're still looking at things with a fresh pair of eyes.
I like that, and that comes through so much in their writing.
Really cute. We get a glimpse into their family life because they mention the kids, I think it's nieces and nephews actually, but they call them the cool kids.
Cute.
And they were so excited that Rob and Mandy were coming to visit that they actually wrote it down in their Christmas diaries.
Oh, that is really cute. I love those little details that they sprinkle in it. Just, it really brings you closer to their experience,
It does. And speaking of bringing us closer to the experience, the blog kind of gives us this quick rundown of their Christmas with the family.
Yeah, how was it?
Well, classic Christmas stuff. Lots of rain, big family dinner. They even give a shout out to Chef Andrew.
Who is Chef Andrew?
I'm assuming he's the one who made the big family dinner.
Okay, yeah.
Then they did Secret Santa and played some games. It seems very like a classic holiday get-together. But we can't get too sidetracked by mince pies and carols just yet.
Right, of course.
Because we have to jet set over to the Canary Islands.
Let's go. I am so ready for this.
Okay, so they land in Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, on what they thought was just a regular winter day.
So they are expecting it to be pretty quiet and, relax.
Right, exactly. But they were so surprised to step off the plane and bam, they are met with this bustling boardwalk scene.
Wow, talk about a welcome surprise.
It turns out that it was actually a bank holiday, so everyone was out and about enjoying the sunshine.
Well, that's a nice way to start the trip.
And that energy just seems to follow them throughout their trip. They actually mentioned returning to a spot with Pedro, their welcoming host.
Oh, is this like a returning to a place that you love kind of thing?
Yeah, it seems like they've been there before, and, they had such a good time that they wanted to go back.
Oh, that's so nice. I love when people have their little local spots,
Me too. And to me, it's always a good sign when people go back to a place.
Yeah.
It means that they really enjoyed it.
Definitely a good endorsement.
But they don't just stay in Las Palmas. They venture out to Teide, the second largest city, and it's like stepping into a completely different atmosphere.
Oh, how so?
They actually arrive right in the middle of Epiphany celebrations, which is the biggest day on the Spanish Christmas calendar.
So like Christmas Day, but bigger.
Exactly. Bigger than Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And the whole city is decorated, and there's just this palpable excitement in the air.
I love that it's like they got to experience 2 holidays in one trip.
And in the midst of all of this festive energy, they stumbled upon this beautiful church called the Basilica de San Juan Bautista, which is nestled in this peaceful plaza.
Oh, wow. So even in the middle of all the excitement, there's still these little pockets of peace and quiet.
And that just goes to show you that no matter where you go, even if it's a bustling city, you can always find a little slice of tranquility.
I love that. And I am making a note to visit this church when I go. It sounds so beautiful and peaceful.
You should. And, they found another one of those pockets of tranquility at the Monumento al Volcán.
Okay, what and where is that?
It's this serene garden that has all of these beautiful fountains, and each fountain represents one of the Canary Islands.
Oh, how cool. I love when places have those little details that connect back to the surrounding area.
Me too. And get this, on one side, you've got this impressive 19th century aqueduct called the Acueducto de Inés Quimida, and then on the other side is this peaceful garden.
Wow, that sounds like the perfect place to just sit and soak it all in.
It does, and they continue on their Gran Canaria adventure by going on this whirlwind tour of the northern part of the island.
Okay, let's hear about it.
Well, they make a quick stop in Ingenio, which they'd actually been to before.
Oh, so they are revisiting a place that they loved.
They are, and to me that just shows how much they loved it so much that they had to go back.
It must be a special place. All right, so Ingenio is the first stop. What's next on this whirlwind tour?
From Ingenio, they head to Arucas, a town dominated by the Church of San Juan Bautista.
Wait, another church dedicated to San Juan Bautista?
I know, right? They've seen a few on this trip, and they also mentioned the charming old town, which I think you'd really love.
Okay, Arucas Old Town added to the list. This is going to be a long list by the time we're done with this deep dive.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And their next stop is Terror, a picturesque mountain town with yet another impressive church. But this time, they also give a shout-out to a restaurant.
Okay, tell me more about the food. What did they have?
The restaurant is called Mison Grill Los Coros, and it seems like they had a really delicious lunch there.
Food is a very important part of traveling, so I always appreciate a good restaurant recommendation.
And their journey continues to Fergas, which is known for its unique mosaics that depict all the Canary Islands.
Oh, wow. That sounds incredible. So you can walk through the streets and see all of the different islands represented in mosaic form.
Exactly. It's like a little mosaic tour of the islands. And they said the coastal views were breathtaking.
It seems like stunning scenery is just a constant in the Canary Islands.
And this brings us to the grand finale of their northern tour, the port of Agade.
Ooh, I am intrigued. Tell me more.
So they get to the port of Agade, and they're greeted by these powerful Atlantic waves crashing against the sea defenses. And the air is filled with the aroma of all this fresh seafood coming from the nearby restaurants.
Oh, wow. It sounds like such a sensory experience.
It does, and it makes me want to hop on a plane right now and experience it for myself.
Me too, but we still have to get through the rest of their trip first.
That's right. Next stop, Tenerife. And you know what I love about how Rob and Mandy described their ferry trip over to Tenerife? They don't try to make it seem like perfect weather and all sunshine. They mentioned the clouds rolling in as they got closer, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like a reality check, right? Like even paradise has its gray days.
Exactly. And I think it makes their experience even more relatable because, not every trip is going to be picture perfect.
And sometimes those cloudy days can be kind of cozy,
Totally. But clouds aside, they were met with quite the sight when they arrived in Santa Cruz de Tenerife.
Oh, what was it?
Picture this, 4 massive cruise ships docked at the harbor.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Right. It really puts into perspective just how many people visit the Canary Islands.
Makes you realize you're just a small part of this much bigger experience.
But for Rob and Mandy, it seems like they were ready for a bit of a change of pace because they hopped on a bus and headed to San Andres.
Okay, and where is San Andres? What is it like?
It's this charming little fishing village not too far from Santa Cruz de Tenerife. And they described it as feeling like the Caribbean.
Really? The Caribbean? Wow. I have to say that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the Canary Islands.
Me neither. So I was really intrigued by that comparison. What was it that gave them those Caribbean vibes?
Well, they talked about the colorful houses that line the streets and just this overall laid-back atmosphere.
Okay, so maybe it was the combination of the vibrant colors and the slower pace of life that reminded them of the Caribbean.
Yeah, maybe it's one of those things where you just have to experience it to fully understand.
For sure. And speaking of experiencing, they stumbled upon this fantastic restaurant in San Andres called El Peiton.
Ooh, tell me about the food. I'm always up for a good food recommendation.
Well, they had this delicious meal of tuna salad, Canarian potatoes, and local fish cakes.
Okay, now you're talking my language. Canarian potatoes and local fish cakes, sign me up.
Right, and since you're a beach enthusiast, I have to ask, did they spend any time on the beach in San Andres?
I hope so, because a beach day after a delicious meal sounds like the perfect combination.
Well, they did actually go to Playa de las Teresitas, which is known for its golden sand and dramatic cliff views.
Wow, that sounds absolutely stunning. Another postcard-worthy view. I'm sensing a theme here.
Right, it's like every corner you turn reveals another breathtaking vista.
And speaking of breathtaking vistas, they also visited Parque García Sanabria, which they described as a city center oasis.
I love how they always manage to find these tranquil pockets amidst all their adventures.
It's like they have this knack for seeking out those hidden gems.
They do, and it makes me wonder how they do it.
Right, is it just luck? Or do they have some sort of secret for finding those off-the-beaten-path places?
Maybe it's a little bit of both, but either way, I'm here for it.
Me too.
Yeah.
And speaking of being here for it, tell me more about this unexpected bus trip they took up the west coast to Puerto de la Cruz.
Oh, yes. Their adventures on the 100 bus.
The 100 bus, is there something special about this bus route?
Well, it seems like the main draw is the scenery. They were completely captivated by the rugged coastline that unfolded before them as the bus made its way up the coast.
Okay, so it's like a scenic coastal tour on wheels.
Basically. And once they reached Puerto de la Cruz, they made sure to visit El Castillo San Felipe.
Another historical site I see. I'm starting to think that they could create a whole separate itinerary just based on the historical landmarks they visited.
And for a change of pace from those golden sands in San Andres, they decided to check out Playa del Castillo.
Okay, well, and what's so special about this beach?
It's a black sand beach, known for its rough waters.
Black sand. That's so cool. I've always wanted to see a black sand beach in person.
It's definitely on my bucket list, too.
The Canary Islands just keep getting more and more intriguing.
Right, and their adventures don't stop there. Remember how they stumbled upon that vibrant African market back in Santa Cruz de Tenerife?
Oh, yeah, the one they said was bursting with colors, scents, and sounds. What was it like?
Well, they didn't go into too much detail about specifics. They really emphasized the lively atmosphere and the feeling of being surrounded by different cultures.
Okay, so it's one of those places where you just have to experience it firsthand to truly grasp the energy.
And speaking of experiencing things firsthand, they decided to venture out to Radazol.
All right, tell me about Radazol. What drew them to this place?
Well, they didn't explicitly say, but it seems like they were looking for those hidden gems, those places that are a little bit off the beaten path.
I can definitely relate to that. There's something so rewarding about discovering a place that isn't swarming with tourists.
And their efforts were rewarded because they found this amazing restaurant in Radazol called La Terrace.
Okay, let's hear about the food. What did they have?
They didn't go into too much detail about the food itself, but they did mention enjoying a cold beer while taking in breathtaking coastal views.
That sounds like my kind of place. Good food, good company, and a stunning view. What more could you ask for?
Right. It seems like they have this knack for finding restaurants with incredible views.
They really do. And speaking of finding things, they almost had a chance to experience a local football game.
Oh yeah, the one at Estadio Heliodoro Rodriguez Lopez.
Ugh.
What happened? Did they get to see it?
Sadly, no. It was completely sold out.
Oh no. That's such a bummer.
But even though they couldn't get tickets, they could still feel the excitement in the air around the stadium.
It's like they could sense the energy and anticipation even from outside.
It just goes to show that sometimes the most memorable moments aren't about the things you plan, but about those unexpected experiences that happen along the way.
So true, and as their time in Tenerife started to wind down, they looked for a mix of relaxation and exploration.
Okay, so tell me about their final days in Tenerife. What did they do?
They decided to immerse themselves in the peace and quiet of the botanical gardens.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I love botanical gardens. What did they think of this one?
They were blown away by the sheer variety of palm species from all over the world.
Wow, that's impressive. It sounds like a plant lover's paradise.
It does, and they didn't stop there. They ended their botanical adventure with a trip to the Auditorio de Tenerife a Don Martin.
Wait a minute, didn't they say that reminded them of the Sydney Opera House?
They did. It's this architectural marvel with these incredible echoing halls, grand staircases. You could just picture the performances that have taken place there.
And I bet the acoustics are amazing in a place like that.
I know, right? And remember how they had that sweet encounter at the Auditorium Cafe?
Oh, yeah, with the Google Translate and the coffee. What was that delicious sounding coffee they had again?
It was called a Barraquito. It's a local coffee with a shot of liquor.
Oh, that sounds right up my alley. And I love how they use Google Translate to chat with that local couple.
It's like those moments of human connection really stayed with them.
Yeah, it's those unexpected interactions that often create the most cherished memories from a trip.
And on their way back from the auditorium, they stumbled upon a massive flea market.
Ooh, a flea market. I love a good flea market. You never know what treasures you'll find.
And that's what makes them so much fun, right? It's like a treasure hunt waiting to happen.
Exactly. You could spend hours browsing through all the unique and interesting items.
And I bet each item has a story to tell.
Oh, absolutely. It's like stepping back in time and imagining who owned these things and what their lives were like.
Okay, so back to Rob and Mandy's last few days in Tenerife. Where else did they go?
Well, on one of their final evenings, they discovered this charming restaurant called Casa de la Noria.
And what did they think of it?
They loved it. They raved about the relaxed atmosphere and the delicious sangria and salads.
It sounds like the perfect way to unwind after a long day of exploring.
Right, and since it was one of their last nights, it was probably a bit bittersweet saying goodbye to Tenerife.
I'm sure it was, but they definitely made the most of their time.
They did, and what better way to celebrate Mandy's birthday than with a trip to La Laguna?
Oh yeah, I forgot they were celebrating her birthday there. How did they get to La Laguna?
They took the tram, which I think adds another layer of charm to the experience.
For sure. And once they arrived in La Laguna, they wandered through the charming cobbled streets and enjoyed a special birthday dinner.
It sounds like the perfect ending to their Tenerife adventure.
It does, but their journey isn't over just yet. They still have to make their way back to Cyprus. So Tenerife sounds like it was just go, 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 but all adventures have to come to an end at some point, right?
That's the sad truth, but they did start to make their way back to Cyprus from Tenerife. How was the trip back?
Well, first they had to take the ferry, back to Gran Canaria to catch their flight.
Ah, yes, back to where it all began.
Exactly. And I love how they snuck in one last meal before heading to the airport.
Of course, any good foodie would do that. Did they find another hidden gem?
They did. It's called Las Canteras Family Restaurant in Las Palmas.
Okay, I've never heard of it, but I am adding it to the list.
You and me both, because they said the food was absolutely delicious.
Well, what did they have spill the beans?
They didn't mention any specific dishes, but they raved about those nice little extras that they got at the end of the meal.
Oh, you mean like a little something special from the chef?
Exactly. It's like a final act of kindness to send you on your way.
I love these little touches. They really can make a meal that much more memorable.
And it's those small details, those moments of genuine human connection that often stay with us long after a trip is over.
I completely agree. And speaking of things that stay with us, I keep thinking about the different cultural experiences they had, especially those Epiphany celebrations in Gran Canaria.
It's amazing how those celebrations are even bigger than Christmas Day itself in Spain.
I know. It really makes you realize how much diversity there is in the world when it comes to traditions and celebrations.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rob and Mandy's Canary Island adventure, I want to leave you with this thought.
Go on, I'm all ears.
As you plan your own trip to these beautiful islands, think about the experiences that will allow you to connect with the local culture on a deeper level.
That's such an important point. It's not just about seeing the sights. It's about immersing yourself in the heart and soul of a place.
Exactly. Maybe it's attending a local festival or learning a few phrases in Spanish, or even just striking up a conversation with a local at a cafe.
Those small interactions can often lead to the most meaningful travel memories.
So go out there, explore, embrace the unexpected, and most importantly, have an unforgettable time.
Where we never hide.
We live out on the highway, chasing the tide.